Welcome to HyberNation, a sleep story podcast. I'm your host, Sean. In each episode, HyberNation will bring you an original story to help you unwind, breathe out the day, and get ready for a good night's rest with a calming tale. So, if you've had a long day, now is the time to put all of that on pause and focus on tonight's story called Sea of Serenity, Discovering the World of the Sea Nomads. Embark on a tranquil audio voyage to the aquatic world of the real-life Bajau People, also known as the Water Gypsies, or Sea Nomads, who dwell gracefully upon the emerald waters of Southeast Asia and spend their entire lives on the water, nurtured by the rhythm of the sea. This unique community lives a life entwined with the tides and currents, calling the ocean their eternal home. In tonight's sleep story, you are an honored guest on a journey to visit these sea nomads, whose history diverges from the path of terrestrial civilizations. Listen closely as we trace the Bajau's remarkable evolution, which has even seen their bodies adapt miraculously to an aquatic life. You'll meet your Bajau host, Dido, who will give you a comfortable place to stay in one of the cozy huts on stilts that stands in the peaceful, warm, turquoise waters in the sea. You'll tour the gentle ocean in one of his traditional hand-carved boats called Lepa Lepa, and even guide you on an underwater adventure where you'll dive into the warm, welcoming water alongside Dido, enveloped by the serene embrace of the sea, as he shows you how the Bajau people skillfully harvest their delicious food. Before we start our journey to visit the world of the sea nomads, let's take a moment to get comfortable and relax. Allow yourself a moment to find comfort in your surroundings. Adjust your body into a comfortable position. Nestle into your pillow and allow yourself to let go of the day's burdens. Close your eyes gently and take a deep, soothing breath. Feel the air fill your lungs, nourishing your body. And as you exhale, release any tension within you. In this serene sanctuary you've created, know that this time is yours and yours alone. It is a gift, a peaceful respite from the hustle and bustle of daily life. Imagine each worry as a leaf floating on a calm stream, moving further away with every breath you take. Allow the gentle currents of relaxation to carry away any anxiety, leaving behind only tranquility and the soft promise of restorative sleep. Whatever challenges you may face, they can wait until the sun blesses us with another day. Tonight, you are entitled to peace, to solace, and to the sweetest of dreams. As my words begin to weave the tapestry of tonight's sleep story, allow yourself to feel the gentle pull of sleep, and allow yourself to drift off at any time into a deep, restorative slumber. Now, let's embark on this journey of relaxation together. It's time to let yourself to be immersed in your relaxing trip to meet Dido and the Bajau people of Southeast Asia, also known as the Sea Nomads. Many millions of years ago, a millimeter-long creature residing in the seabed took an evolutionary turn and gave rise to multicellular organisms, which, among others, evolved into humans. Well, human civilization has grown out of the ocean and on to land. The Bajau people, living in the waters surrounding Southeast Asia, took a very different course in history. They are known as Sea Nomads, or Water Gypsies. These are the nicknames for an estimated 1 million people who spend their entire lives on the water, surrounded by the sea and a keenly curious world. The Bajau build their homes on stilts in the sea, wooden poles upon which wooden huts are mounted. And when, during the day, the world goes out for jobs, the Bajau people steer their hand-carved traditional houseboats out into the sea to fish for food for their families, but also to trade for money, rice, and other items they need to live. The Bajau people have lived on the seas of Southeast Asia for generations. And over an estimated millennium, their bodies have evolved to live in water. Compared to the average person, the Bajau have developed 50% larger spleens, enabling them to remain underwater for up to 13 minutes without the aid of snorkels or oxygen tanks. Their eyes have also evolved, enabling them to see much more clearly underwater compared to those who live exclusively on land. Today, you'll take a boat from a small island in Indonesia called Togian Island to visit a Bajau village. It's a picturesque, colorful village with friendly, welcoming people. The Bajau people off the coast of Indonesia seem to reject life on land, a life which humankind has created with much effort. Their lives, simple and uncomplicated, remain near and on the seas. Their homes built on water. Their economy thriving on fish. Their food composed of the bounties of the sea. Their myths and stories originating from and ending at the large bodies of water. As you go off, exploring their culture, their food, and their lives, you traverse through a history, almost an alternate one, You travel through geographic urbanity, one that has never been in the limelight. These are the people who have captured the attention of scientists and explorers, ethnographers, historians, and now you. When you step off the bus that had traversed along the unwinding road, the smell of salt water hits you. You are on Togian Island. The air is humid, yet the light breeze ruffles your hair. It passes through the light tropical fabric shirt you wear. The sun is still high in the sky. The palm trees cast a shadow along the road. One single road runs through the island, lazily looping around the many crests and troughs of the island. You close your eyes, focusing on each sound individually. An orchestra of birds, chirping all over the island, reaches you from all directions. It's the migrating seabirds, including crows and sparrows. It's tiny hummingbirds and a multitude of larger birds that nest in the trees all over the island. From below, you can hear a single cricket chirping close to you, although you aren't able to locate it. The sounds of the waves hitting the shore is almost mutable. Only when you focus, you can hear them calling, whispering, creating music. You feel them beckoning you, asking you to pull closer. You walk, taking one sultry footstep after the other. Between two palm trees hangs an abandoned hammock. It swings back and forth, cradling the vacuum that occupies it. You can watch its shadow moving just at a second's delay, back and forth, back and forth. It swings to the gentle breeze. You can imagine seeing it on a vacation resort's brochure, but you know it could never capture the slight tinge of salt on your lips, the warmth of the breeze embracing you, the cooling off of your body, and the smell of green coconuts. Coconuts that have the smell of reassurance, hard shell, and solid and liquid nourishment inside, much like home. You find yourself near a raised hill. It's covered with green shrubs and an occasional flower or two. The road is looping, muddy, red-brown. It has given way to the view of the crystal blue sea. Its surface dusted with white foam. When the sun rays hit its generous surface, you can see the pearls dancing atop. The sea has a mesmerizing effect on you, taking you to the depths of your own feeling of peace and relaxation. The smells and clamor of city are getting closer. You dwell in the calm for a few seconds. Then, taking a deep breath, you make your way for the rustic, primitive city which lies ahead. As you near, the smell of gasoline from the surrounding boats hits you. Gasoline reminds you of adventure, the very beginning of it, when you are fresh and energetic. Your feet hit the road of the town. You can see it bustling a few steps ahead. Fish vendors and coconut vendors line the pavement. You feel your belly rumbling. Thirst has begun to make itself felt. You quicken your pace, each foot hitting the concrete road with a slight thud. When you approach the vendors, you cannot understand the language they converse in. It is the Sama language they speak. Their voice is high. The formation of their words, a resounding litany of ocean waves. When you approach the nearest coconut vendor, you greet them with a smile and a wave. The townsfolk have the tanned appearance of people who have made the sea their home. Gold streaking their brown hair. You suspect the generous sun has given them this gift. Their cheekbones, high and prominent. Large eyes, set in angular faces. Brilliant white teeth reveal themselves when the coconut vendor smiles in response to your greeting. A hush has fallen around you. People turn to look at you, then suddenly burst into loud conversations, interspersed by moments of silence, while they wait for others to respond. The vendor, whose stall you stand close to, is waving his hands at you. His torso is exposed over a loose brown trouser. You understand he cannot speak English. You point to the coconut and give a look as to ask how much. He holds up 2 fingers, his nails square, hands tanned and rough. They're the hands of a man who has worked hard. You hand him the crisp notes, and he drills a hole in the coconut and hands it to you in return. The green of the coconut feels smooth and slippery in your hand. Cool. Nature's edible marble. And drinkable, too. You put your lips to its shell, raise it to your mouth, and the sweet liquid flows in. It feels light, almost as much as water. The temperature is slightly cool, but it is the smell that you revel in. Around you, fish, lobster, and small sea urchins are displayed on a rickety wooden board. Each vendor that you pass calls out to you. They hold up what you can imagine to be the best, the largest, the most colorful catch they have on display. You look towards each of them, smile, and shake your head in a no politely. The colorful residential doors are starting to appear now. The slippery concrete road is branching off into residential streets. The houses are almost all painted off-white. The window sheds painted blue or orange or green. The roofs lined with Italian tiles, mud red. From afar, the town looks picturesque, almost ready for a film shoot. As you get closer to the houses, you begin to notice the signs of use. Watermarks on the outer walls, pots and pans that line the small veranda, children sitting in front yards, hunched over games of pebbles. In some places, women sit outside, chatting as they cook over clay stoves, feeding wood into the fire. The faint smell of frying fish occasionally fills your nostrils. You walk on until you come across a large board. The script you are not able to get, but you can spy a few customers sitting in the windows of the small building whose front is painted a deep olive green. Small windows open on the street you stand on. The smell of frying fish, baking bread, and boiling tea wafts in the surrounding. You step on the landing. Here, too, you receive the same reaction as you did in the open ware market. People turn to look at you, albeit with a tinge of subtleness. You take in your surroundings. You stand on what you gather to be a limestone-coated floor. The chairs are made of woven cane, while their backs are made of dried and woven palm leaves. Passing through, you had seen the roofs of many houses lined with palm leaves. Here, you can finally take in what the interior looks like. A high palm leaf roof is held delicately by long bamboo shoots. They are tied up with organic ropes. Once people have gone back to their conversation, you walk to the makeshift serving counter. Coconut shells piled on either side of the counter. The person you perceive to be the cashier is leaning back on an easy chair. He looks at you and smiles warmly. In a single word that you can imagine he picked up from tourists visiting, he asks you, "Food?" You nod your head. He punches in the numbers in the calculator and shows it to you. You pay him the money. He calls out to someone in the back and points you towards a table. As you sit, waiting for the food to arrive, the conversation flows around you. You can hear slight bells tingling somewhere. Soon, a man appears beside you with a steaming coconut shell. Inside is what you take to be shrimp, covering a base of cassava and fish. The spoon is more of a wooden spatula. By the smell, you can gather that it has been cooked on an open fire. As you begin chewing, a mixture of crunch with the softness of cassava and fish rushes through your mouth. Lightly salted, and perhaps fried in green chili, the food is surprisingly mild and light. You take your time chewing, finishing up. When you walk out, you check your map for the ferry that will take you to the Bajau People's homes on stilts. One of these homes, that people have rented out for vacation purpose, is to be your abode. That is, when you are not on their boats, called lepa lepa. When you leave the ferry terminal, after having bought your ticket, the sea expands beyond your line of sight. Blue, clear water over white sand dominates the landscape. The ferry gently rocks as you step on it. The engine jumps to a start, and it speeds past the small island towards the stilt homes that soon begin to appear in the distance. The ferry driver sits beside you, chewing betel nut. He asks whether you know how the Bajau people came to live in the sea and not on land. You shake your head to express that you have not. He begins speaking in a litany of broken English, taking short pauses for meandering the ferry in directions around the sea. He began to tell you the legend of the Bajau people. The Bajau people lived near Johor, a place near Mecca, in houseboats such as the ones they live in now. One night, a strong wind blew, and the chief of the Bajau anchored a pole to what he thought was the floor of a seabed. Others, too, followed his lead and dug their poles in. You can think of how, as the winds bellowed at night, the Bajau people snuggled in their hand-carved boats called lepa lepa, huddled close together. The women would have held their children close as the night darkened. Unknowingly, the Bajau people had dug the pole into a sleeping stingray. At night, the stingray awoke and swam towards the sea, leaving the Bajau people themselves adrift in the wide sea. For a week, they helplessly looked for a direction, and the chief prayed. Each night, how they kept watch over the morning star to navigate their way through the sea, how they remained vigilant, and the happiness they would have felt each time an island came into view. You wonder which of the islands that the Bajau had first stepped on, making it a makeshift pit stop along their way. Gathering provisions were now islands controlled by states who advertised them as tourist attractions. The Bajau people had tasted the first fruits of these lands, had encountered the various species, had swam in the open seas as their boat moored together, rocking back and forth on the seashores, how their children, now tanned by the sun, would have flipped and played on the sand and ate whatever they could salvage from the sea. And after having seen how they lived and strived, the first spirit was sent, guiding the Bajau people to a haven. They floated to the coast of the Philippines, where they became the subjects of the powerful King Sulu. But the ferry driver tells you there is another side to the story as well. The powerful Sultan of Johor had originally tasked the Bajau people, who at that time were nobles and knights, with escorting his daughter to the powerful Sultan of Sulu, whereas she preferred his rival, the King of Brunei. As their boats were adrift, the King of Brunei came with his fleet and carried Aisha off to his lands before the escort could do anything. Instead of returning to Johor, the Bajau people drifted the seas as they came to live on unfrequented islands, fishing and optimizing their boats for their explorations of the sea. This is how they earned the name Sea Gypsies. The Bajau people had learned to live on the sea out of a drive for survival until it had become a way of life, a way of ancestors. The ferry driver tells you that he too once lived in a lepa and spent his time in stilt homes. But now, with the tourists coming in, he could find newer opportunities. Moving to a place closer to the market with his daughter and wife. When the spell of his tale finally wears off, you look around to find yourself in another world. Beside the ferry, when you look very closely, small orange golden fish flit past the ferry. The ferry is rushing towards the stilt island. From originally looking like little specks of brown, the settlement has finally come into view. You can spy little canoes, painted all hues of blue, green, orange, and yellow, dancing all over the water surface. And now you know that what looked like little colorful specks earlier are children playing and trying to catch small fish in the water. Your camera is safe in your bag, ready to take photos of all the sights around you. As your ferry approaches, the children start furiously rowing towards it. The ferry driver waves at the children, speaking in Sama. You too wave. The driver shuts off the ferry's engine, and soon you are surrounded by canoes, the same canoes that seemed so far away only moments before. You are in the village of Pulau Papan. Children wear a powdery substance on their faces. It's a mixture of rice powder and a yellow spice that they apply on their faces as a sunscreen. They extend their palms towards the ferry driver, talking excitedly among themselves. He pulls out a large tote bag and starts handing out small sweets wrapped in paper. The children instantly open them up and start chewing. One offers their share to you. The child steps into the boat and sits beside you. She feels the fabric of your shirt and studies you intently. You think of how the gaze of a child is different from that of an adult. The child absorbs, notes, curiously prods with eyes what she cannot with hands, and lets your image be painted on the canvas of her imagination. Most adults, on the other hand, are just full of preconceived notions and are quicker to cast judgment. You welcome the child's curiosity. The ferryman, too, has retrieved an oar from some nook or cranny of the boat. He smiles as he rotates his arm. He taps the engine of the ferry. Bad for environment, he says, and you nod. He finally stops the boat at a stilt house. The driver lets you know that this is the home that you will occupy. It comes complete with a lepa boat and a staircase that takes you from the sea to the home above. You can feel a wave of excitement and relaxation rolling in. You take your belongings and start climbing the stairs. When you finally reach the landing, you were able to see the extent of the settlement. Your home is a little towards the sea, at the far end of the settlement. When you look out of the windows on two ends of the house, You suspect by their position that they've been coordinated with the sun's rays. The houses that extend towards the shore are markedly different from yours. Signs of occupancy show themselves in the form of clothes that are hung out to dry. The many layers of palm leaves that lay atop the roofs. The frayed state of woven palm curtains while yours are still fresh. The sea laps against the poles. You can hear the lull. You hear footsteps on the wooden floor. You turn back and come face to face with a young man who appears to be about 19 or 20. He holds your gaze for a moment before extending his arm. Pointing to himself, he mouths, "Dido." You introduce yourself in a similar manner. He holds a bowl wrapped in gift and hands it to you. "Food," he says. You understand it as his way of welcoming you to the settlement. He tells you to be ready for your guided tour early the next morning. You thank him with a smile and a nod of your head. Dido leaves you to get settled. You feel like you could spend all of your time in this beautiful small home. A makeshift bamboo bed and a table is all that furnishes the space. A small area is covered by woven bamboo leaf curtains. Other than that, the minimalist setup of the place gives you a nice feeling of calm, of being burden-free. When you finally step out of the shoes you have been wearing all day and step onto the dry surface, your skin, it seems, has come alive of its own accord. You wiggle your toes, flexing the skin that is wrinkled. The light breeze on your feet feels wonderful. The light breeze carries from one open window to another. When you sit on your bed, you're able to contemplate the world around you. The sun is setting over the ocean. From one of your windows, you can see the orange-yellow, perfect sphere slowly descending into the azure ocean. You watch the sun set until the pale pink light is all that is left in the sky. The day transforms into night, and you drift off to sleep. The sound of waves rolling against the shore. The people talking in soft tones. The dark of the night, spangled by clusters of stars. When you wake up, it is still dark. You are woken by a strange call. When you look out the window, a man stands at the edge of the boat. His hands raised to his ears, and he calls out in a strange language. It's a call to morning prayer. As you watch, boats with many lanterns group closer to the man, and the villagers follow what can only be a practiced ritual. They rise. They prostrate together. They sit on their haunches and raise their hands in prayer. It almost seems as if you're witnessing a tradition from ancient times. As the boats begin to disperse, you prepare for the day. The sun has begun rising in the east. Its gentle, early rays are yet to fully take on the fierceness of their form. Birds flock to the boats. There is a knock on the floorboard. You raise the woven curtain. Dido stands smiling before you. He motions for you to join him. "We go early morning," he says. You gather your camera and your diving equipment. Slip your feet into the sandals you have brought and descend the stairs behind Dido. His boat is parked right beside the staircase. He sets forth a bowl carrying white paste, dips his fingers in, and rubs it on his face. The white paste is the local version of protective sunscreen. Dido extends his arm and offers the bowl to you. The paste feels grainy against your skin and cool as well. Dido's boat is not a canoe like the one that is parked beside your hut. The boat that you ride in currently is a traditional lepa-lepa. It is adorned with green leaves. Pots and pans are neatly stacked to a side. The seat that you sit on has been smoothed and polished by years of use. Dido has started propelling the boat with a single oar. Soon, the settlement is far behind you, and you are in the open sea. Dido retrieves an old mask, a single handmade fin, and a pair of goggles from the covered end of the boat. He gestures for you to wear yours. You adjust your mask and oxygen tank. It feels heavy on your face. Dido grabs a handmade javelin and dives into the sea. You take a moment to gather your thoughts and then dive into the warm, inviting blue water after Dido. Your camera sits snugly in the waterproof protective cover. The feeling of the warm water is the first thing you notice. You can hear the sound of the water hitting the canoe and the sounds of Dido in the water. He is gesturing you to follow, javelin in hand. You extend your arms and plunge after him. You can feel the gentle pressure of the water in your ears. You watch as Dido swims on, javelin in hand. As you watch, Dido, with his spear, resembles an ancient hunter on the plains. A hunter you might see on a reenactment in a documentary, except he is not hunting on land, but he's just as agile hunting in the water as our ancient ancestors were on land. Dido is swimming further down. You feel for the camera's button and depress it. The sound of the shutter clicking is muffled, but you can hear it. A gold-yellow coral fish passes by. You wonder if you should make Dido aware. But when you turn to motion to him, he is poised, perfectly still in the calm water. Dido's arm stabs the javelin through the water with precision. And just like that, you have caught the first fish of the day. Dido smiles at you. He swims to the surface. You swim after him, the pressure of the water easing on you with every stroke. When you reach the surface, you remove your mask and take a deep breath. The sun, it seems in your few moments of absence, has risen at an accelerated rate in the sky. The surface light seems extra bright. As you wait for your vision to adjust, Dido is already pulling himself up into the boat. He holds out his hand. You take it, but you cannot hope to achieve the same graceful agility that he had demonstrated. But you are finally in the boat. He smiles broadly at you. He tells you that you bring him good luck. Dido is already cleaning the catch. Once he is done, he deposits the catch in a pot. Just a couple yards away, other boats have appeared. Dido shouts across the distance, and someone responds. Dido becomes increasingly animated through the exchange. "You come Magpie Bawa," he tells you. The statement leaves you confused. It probably has shown on your face, and Dido clarifies that it's a party. He asks you to join the ritual dehusking of rice ceremony at his home tonight. You're grateful of his welcoming generosity. Over the course of the day, you and Dido dive back into the water several times. Tonight, the two of you are hunting for a big party. Each time, you swim a little farther down. During this dive, you see a group of Bajau hunters still in the water. All of them looking like they're simultaneously frozen in the water, with their javelins cocked and ready to throw. They are preparing to hunt the large school of fish before them. You capture that moment forever in time with a photo. The sunlight was streaming through the water, enveloping each of the divers in a silver glow as bubbles blow out in front of them. Definitely a scene you could frame on your wall. Towards the end of the hunt, Dido hands you his javelin and motions for you to try. As you go deeper into the sea, you marvel at his ability to hold his breath. This time, the two of you swim until you have reached the seabed. A stingray sleeps on the seabed, nestled among seaweed. Dido hovers in the background as you adjust your arm. You bring it closer and closer to the stingray, taking the risk of waking it up. And in that moment, you have caught your first catch. You look back at Dido. He is applauding with a nod and a happy smile. Dido pulls you up into the boat. He tells you that the two of you need to go to the sacred island. It's a few paces away where you'll give an offering. This island, he tells you, is the spiritual center of his people. Whenever an occasion of joy arises, be it childbirth, a festival, or a wedding, the Bajau people take an offering to the island. It's to thank the spirits residing there for their blessing. When someone wants to make an important decision, they take their lepa to the island and circle it on the boat until they arrive at a decision. Now you, a blessing for the settlement, will be the reason to give thanks. The two of you in the houseboat begin your journey by traveling further away from the settlement. The setting sun has brought a new occupant to the boat. A large seagull sits at the hull. You realize now that the Bajau people keep seabirds as pets, just as you and your friends might keep a domesticated cat or dog. The seabirds behave much like pets, as they leave in the morning and return at sunset. The Bajau people feed them fish scales, leftover food, and sea cucumbers. Dido is currently petting his bird. Around you, there are plops in the water. The boat gently sways. The sea has darkened. The moon or the stars have not yet risen in the sky. Finally, a dark form begins to take shape in the otherwise unchanging scenery of the sea. You can make out the outlines of the trees. The boat is now close to the island. The waters near the shore seem to glow. The blue, luminescent lights in the water around the island looks magical. Dido is all but dancing. The two of you secure the boat on the shore. Dido recovers a fish from the pot and hands it to you. He leads you to the nearest tree and gestures for you to deposit it at the base. Then, with a childish glee, he holds your arm and pulls you running to the boat. You pull out your camera and try to click a few shots. Dido motions for you to not take a picture. You understand. This is sacred to him and his people, a privilege he has granted you and to no one else. The two of you make your way back in comfortable silence. Some of the bioluminescent plankton have stuck to the bases of the boats. And as the boats retrace their course, it deposits them in the darker edges of the sea. The glowing trails are like nothing you've ever seen before. When the two of you make it back to the village, music fills the air. The smell of food cooking reminds you of your exciting day and the feast that was foraged from the sea. The women wear deep pinks and aqua greens. Dido stops near a house, and looking up, he shouts something. 3 children and a young woman walk out and come aboard. The entire settlement, it seems, has taken to cooking in the boat. The woman you presume to be his wife immediately starts a fire in the back. You cannot see what she uses to protect the boat from catching fire, but she tosses the fish in, and soon the entire boat is filled with the aroma of fish cooking in cinnamon. Dido has pulled out a stringed instrument, and a couple of boats come near. You lie down in the hull of the boat as you float on the sea and look up at the beautiful sky and just enjoy the music and the aroma of delicious food. The entire sea tonight is filled with the aroma of food and music that sounds like minstrels are singing. Tonight, everything is perfect. It makes you feel that the world is a safe place, a place of happiness, of filled bellies and small joys, and of stars that are greeted by pale lantern lights below. And for tonight, you are ever grateful as you rock on the boat. Your eyes gently close and give way to the pleasure of a blissful, meditative happiness.